I want to talk about human centered capitalism. Why do we need a new form of capitalism?
I refer back to my wife and GDP. How many of you all got excited about GDP when you woke up this morning? You're like, oh, I'm going to make a big contribution today. I can feel it. Like, of course not. That's absurd. But GDP is the way we measure our economic growth. We made it up almost 100 years ago, and it's driving us off a cliff because GDP is at record highs while our life expectancy is declining. I mean, which one do you care more about? And so one of the great things I can do as president that's actually easier than a lot of the other stuff, is after I'm president in 2021, thanks to you all, thank you, Nevada, I'm going to go down the street to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and I'm going to say, hey, GDP, really old, really out of date, kind of stupid. We'll keep it, but we're also going to broaden it and include it as a basket of measurements for our economic progress. And the other factors, the other measurements are going to be things we actually care about, like mental health and freedom from substance abuse, like clean air and clean water, like how our kids are doing, like average income and affordability, health and life expectancy. If you had those as your measurements, then you'd actually see how we're doing and you'd see how much we've been struggling over this last number of years. And I'll present these statistics every year to you all at the State of the Union. I'll be the first president to use a PowerPoint deck at the State of the Union and just start going through the numbers. Instead of these bizarre theater performances we're currently subject to that I'm finding increasingly unwatchable. I mean, like, who might as well, it's like, look, I'll just give you the real stats and be like, hey, 8 Americans are dying of drugs every hour. That's horrifying. So let's get that down by 50% over the next 4 years, and here's how we're going to do it. And then next year, I'll tell you how we're doing. You know, it's like you would actually be like, oh, I'm going to see how we're doing. And then the tricky part then becomes driving corporate behavior to actually improve these variables. So that if you have a company that, let's say, helps kids get stronger or gets people off of drugs, that they can somehow be rewarded for that behavior in ways other than good PR. Like you can actually give them tax breaks based upon doing something that drives this new set of economic measurements forward. So I'm very passionate about this. It sounds a little bit esoteric, but it's actually fundamental, because if you have the wrong measurements, you are doomed. You know, you can never make any improvements. So what we have to do is we have to start measuring the right things, then drive our own behavior. And the great thing is then you'd all be excited. If I came back to you and said, hey, we brought drug overdoses down by 50%, you'd be like, that's incredible. Like, I'm really excited about that. In a way that's like, hey, GDP hit a record high. You'd be like, who cares? You know what I mean? It's like no one's going around being like, GDP. GDP doesn't make any sense.